to challenge myself. I've only ever drawn the conventional pretty girl. So I took to Pinterest to find people with pretty distinct and, might I add, beautiful features and expressions that some would say are harder to depict on paper. Here's how that went. Hello and welcome back to the series of relearning portraits. If you couldn't already tell from the intro, I'm pretty much only used to drawing girls, and I explained that in the previous episode, so wink wonk, take the hint. Anywho, that's why we're drawing 3 of the male species today. It's been a week since I did the last episode because school has already started for me. Yay! No. So I'll be honest and say I haven't really practiced much since then. But anyway, I chose this first image because of, drumroll please, his nose. I think he just has a really cool looking nose, okay? And like I said, I'm not very used to drawing the males, never mind older males. You know, now that I mentioned and showed you his nose, I realized that it looks nothing alike, and I'm sorry. This is just practice, guys, okay? This is just practice, it's fine. Once again, I'm starting from darkest to lightest, but I have contemplated about this method because I started watching people who do watercolor, and it makes more sense for them to go from light to dark because you can easily add more depth if you want to the drawing, but it's harder to take away the dark parts. So because of this, I think I am probably going to try that in the next episode. What I notice from my shading is that I'm going really fast. And no, I'm not just saying that because this is on time-lapse. It kind of obviously reflects on the drawing as well. Like, you can tell some of the lines are a little bit lazy, and this reminds me of my art teacher in secondary school because she would tell me that some parts of my drawing looked lazy, and at the time I didn't really understand what she meant. But looking back at my old pieces and even this one, I can see where she's coming from, and I definitely have to work on that because I want to be more intentional with my lines. If you remember from the last episode, I also commented on how I need to take my time and be more careful with my lines because a lot of the time I just go in without really thinking much about it. And maybe in the next episode, I'll minimize the number of strokes that I do on my paper so that I can at least improve on that. And now you're about to see me do the hair for this man. If you caught the last episode, you would know that I used to do this block thing with the hair, so I wouldn't really do much to it. I would just put a bunch of random strokes, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And it looks horrible, but I genuinely don't know what to do with hair. So I also have to work on that in the next episode, but we'll see. And now we're moving on to the next drawing, which is of another older man. Now that I'm looking back at this, honestly, it's not my best work, but I'm still gonna include it in because I know that artists, sometimes they struggle with liking their work and thinking that it's good enough. I think it's because of society nowadays. We only post the most perfect images, the most perfect drawings that we have, the things that we're most proud of, but we rarely show what we're not proud of and what we don't really like about what we've done. And I think it's time we normalize these type of things because it's really going to help with a lot of people's mentality when it comes to social media or even when it comes to themselves. If we finally show our imperfections and we finally show parts of us that we aren't entirely proud of, we start to embrace ourselves. And I think it's really important that we do that. When you show your mistakes in the art world, as time progresses, you can see how much you improve, and I think that's really important as an artist as well because you need to see where you came from and how you grew to be at the standard you are now. It basically takes a lot of hard work, and not all of that work is going to be absolutely perfect, and I think that we need to start embracing that. So that is why I left this in, and I hope this didn't get too preachy. It probably did, I'm really sorry, but yeah, I think it's just a really important thing that we need to start doing because not a lot of people are doing it nowadays. We're doing it more, definitely, and we're making progress, but there's so much more to be done. Now, at this point in the drawing, I was thinking I couldn't salvage this because honestly, he kind of looks like dobBy, the house elf, and if he was magically transfigured into a human being. Actually, the only part of the drawing that I was kind of proud of was the clothes because like I used to do with the hair, I didn't do much with the clothes either because again, it was too daunting for me. It was just like a big block of nothing and I had to shade everything in and it was just a lot of work. And yes, I do admit I was pretty lazy like my art teacher said, but this time I actually did put in a lot of effort in the clothes. As you can see, I really paid attention to how much shadow there was in certain areas. So at this point of the drawing, I was really trying to figure out which part of the drawing was making me hate it so much, and I figured out that it was the eyes. He just looked really creepy with them, so I decided to change them to make them look more cartoonish instead of realistic or an attempt at realism, you know? So that actually made the drawing just a little bit more tolerable, I don't know, but I'd still rate it like a 5 out of 10 at most, because it still definitely isn't my favorite out of the 3. So for this next drawing, I picked the image because this boy kind of reminded me of him, like the resemblance was a little bit uncanny. Not really, it was probably just me who saw it, but back to what I was saying in the intro, I really wanted to challenge myself with distinct features, and now I realize that the people that I chose for this episode, it wasn't necessarily the most distinct features. It was certain things that I haven't really drawn properly before or whatever, and I'm still working on that. Obviously, like this guy's ears are really big and yet they look completely normal here. I don't know. And his eyes as well, they were pretty big, but when I drew it out, it didn't look as big as it did, and that's why I also want to work on the stylistic properties of my drawings, because most of the time I really rely on realism and stuff, but I really do want to branch out into drawings that emphasize more prominent features of the face. For example, Minnie Small's work, she is honestly one of the few artists that kept me going with my art and made me want to improve, because I really adored the way she put emphasis on certain features of the face that make the person unique. And that is exactly what I wanted to work on in this series as well, not just realism and making things look quote-unquote perfect. This is also applicable to my art style. I really do want to work on it because I genuinely don't want to keep relying on realism to feel like I've done enough or whatever. But anyway, this drawing, even though it looks kind of like the best out of the 3, it definitely doesn't look like the reference image at all. The proportions are so wrong, but you know, it's fine, I guess. We're all just practicing, so I'm not entirely mad at it. Now, as this video comes to a close, I'd like to give you guys my notes throughout the entire video. So in the next episode, I'll be trying to go from light to dark when it comes to shading, and also minimize the number of strokes and take my time when shading, and also find a way to draw hair properly, because as you can tell, that hair is not my strong suit, okay? Let's just be honest. And lastly, I would like to work on my art style. more specifically the stylistic properties in my drawings, and also emphasis on unique features. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!